Okay, so today we're going to learn a title called Z-scores and what Z-scores are. So a Z-score tells you your position of how many standard deviations you are away from the mean. So Z-score definition is how many standard deviations away you are from mean. Okay, so we learned how to kind of draw a normal distribution curve. So in the future, if I ever ask you the question, is something normally distributed? It means the data is less data on the sides, more data close to the middle, right? That's the pattern. What data should look like. Okay? So if I measured heights of all students, most of the students should be kind of around the same average. You're going to have some really tall people and really short people, but less of them, right? Okay, so here's an example. So you can see the mean is 150 and the standard deviation is 5. So I went 5 up, 5 up, 5 up. So this number has a Z-score of 3 because it's 3 standard deviations higher than the average. That's all it's meaning, okay? So can we make a conclusion? If you're better than the average, your Z-score should be positive. So if you're better than the average, your Z-score is a positive value. So what if you're lower than the average? Yeah, if you're lower than the mean, you better have a negative Z-score. Okay, showing that you're below the average.
And that's for every question? Like
Yep. Yep, that's an always true thing. Okay, and so something to think about. All right, here we go. So, on this chart, I've told you 155 is exactly a Z-score of 1. I've told you that. But we're going to use this formula to see why does it hold true. So here's your formula at the top of the page. Your score, subtract the mean score divided by the standard score. So here I go. Z equals my score, so I'm talking about the score of 155. Subtract, what's the average score? 150 divided by the standard. Okay, and we said this should be 1 because it said that on the chart. So how would you type this into your calculator properly? Because if I type this in, if I type that in, it's going to go wrong for me. Why? This is going to be wrong. You have to use a bracket. Oops, wrong spot. Okay, as soon as you have something on a top or a bottom on a fraction like that, it's implied. There's an implication of brackets. Okay, do you get one? See if you do. Because that's what the answer says it should have been. Because it's 1 standard deviation above the average. Okay, so let's try 140 using the formula. And on this chart, it told me 140 should be exactly -2. So let's try it out. Z equals, what's the score of 140? Subtract the mean over the standard. And we need brackets, right? You're doing the type. Okay, so try it, and I told you the answer already should have been a -2.
And the standard is what's the difference between each, like something?
Yep, and it's like a provided value.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I would always say, here's the mean and here's the standard. Figure out stuff. Okay, now we're going to go on these not exact values. Okay, so here's my next one, 155. Can we make a guess before we do the formula? 155, what do you think the z-score would be? I'm guessing like 1.8-ish. Would that make sense? Because 160 is 2. Okay, so here I go. Z equals 158, subtract the average over the standard. And I got 1.6. So your 1.6 standard deviations higher than the average. Okay, so 141. Let's get a z-score. 141. So z equals 141, subtract the average over standard. Okay, do you remember this? That's going to be negative. Why? Because 141 is worse than the average person. So it's going to be a negative number. So make sure that happens. And does your answer make sense on your chart? Okay, 141 would be about here. Because here's 140, here's 145. So 144, does negative 1.8 sound good on the chart? Yeah. Okay, now we're going to reverse it. I'm going to give you the z-score, and you have to figure out what that is. Okay, so this time I gave you a z-score. So 0.8 is a z-score. We're going to figure out what is the score. What is the actual score that correlates to that position? Okay, can we make a guess? If your z-score is 0.8, I'm above the average about right here. Does that make sense? What do you think a guess is? 153, 54? Okay. Can anybody give me 2 algebra moves to get this number? I got to do 2 things to it. What should I do first? Which one do I have to eliminate first? Multiply by 5 and then add 150. So can you do those 2 maneuvers in that? You have to do it in that order, right? And we guessed, and look at that. We're pretty bang on our guess, one of their guesses. Okay, last one. Negative 2.9. Negative. This is pretty bad score. Whoever this person is pretty far below the average. The average was 150, so they're kind of at the bottom of the barrel. So where are they? Let's say these are bowling scores or something like that. Okay, so I got 135.5 as a score to whatever data this is, if it was like a bowling score or something. Okay, I'm done.